Hi again everyone, Scott Pyre, Pop Culture Fan here, and in this video, I want to talk about the new Wonka movie. I mean, it's not new anymore, but I want to talk about the fact that the movie has just recently passed 500 million worldwide at the box office, which means that now the movie has surpassed the previous film, the Chocolate Factory remake from 2005. It has now surpassed that and made more money. So yeah, I want to obviously, the movie is a financial and critical success. It's doing really well critically amongst fans and critics, and that's great. And I think that this could really realistically lead to a potential sequel, and I want to talk about that in this video and how the sequel to the Wonka movie would be pitched as, at least to me, would be the most logical step of continuing this story of Timothee Chalamet's version of the character, while at the same time still sort of being like a prequel story to the novel or the original film. And to me, I think it would be interesting to see Willy Wonka running the chocolate factory, as the chocolate factory begins production on chocolate, and seeing the actual chocolate room actually being created. That'd be really cool. And also just seeing how he gets all the other Oompa Loompas from Loompa Land to work for him in the factory. I think that would be an interesting story for this sequel. And if I could think up like a title for this sequel, it could be Wonka into the Chocolate Factory. It's a simple title, but it tells you what you want to know about the premise of this potential sequel. Wonka into the Chocolate Factory. That could be their way of sort of invoking like into the Spider-Verse movies in a way, but it would make sense within the context of the story for this potential sequel, and how Willy is running everything, as this is still like the Timothée Chalamet younger version of the character. And I think it would also be important to see how the people that were with him by the end of the previous film, what if something happens, right? Like, what if these people that he became such close friends with at the end of the previous film, what if something happens, right? And there's this friction between Willy Wonka and them, that could be lent to Wonka potentially becoming more like the version of the character from the original 71 film, and that could lead to a more darker story, which I think would be really fascinating. And also, they could realistically like introduce like a younger version of, say, Grandpa Joe, and seeing him working for Willy Wonka. That would be really interesting too, because the Chocolate Factory remake sort of did that a little bit as well. And it would be interesting seeing a younger version of Grandpa Joe working with Willy Wonka in the factory. I think that would be really fascinating. And it would still be a musical, obviously, and it would really be a prequel, like not necessarily a direct prequel to the original 71 film, but having those ties, right? The similar kind of nods and winks like the previous movie had, but leaning a little bit more into the original film, and connecting it a little bit more, but still sort of being part of its own continuity, sort of like what the new Planet of the Apes reboot films are doing, and how those are connected in a way to the original 68 film. And that could sort of be like, not necessarily a trilogy, but they could still sort of do that with this sequel for the Wonka film. And I don't know if they'll potentially make a third film too. That depends on whether or not this potential sequel does well, and I do think that it will, based on how well this movie did. And yeah, it would be really interesting seeing Willy Wonka just running the factory, like, and seeing how he might potentially, you know, just starts to become like a, you know, isolating himself within the factory away from humanity, basically, except for the Oompa Loompas. I think that would lend to a darker story, and seeing him becoming more like the Willy Wonka from the original film. That is probably the more interesting aspect of this potential sequel to me. And I cannot wait to see if this movie does get a sequel, and I really do think that it will, because it has been doing really well critically and financially, and that's awesome. And I love this franchise. So yeah, those are really all my thoughts. I wanted to give like my own like version of what I would want for a sequel to the Wonka movie, and you know, just providing a bit of an update on how the new movie is doing financially. And it's doing really well, and that's great. And I really do think that a sequel can happen now. I really do. So yeah, that should do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.